conversation now, and we'll just see how we go with it.
Okay, that's fine.
So
I'm
it's,
pleased we're all connected.
I
Yeah.
know, and it's lovely to connect with you. I mean, I didn't actually officially meet you, but I saw you at the UFO Science and Consciousness Conference in
Oh,
November
really?
2011. Yes.
Yeah. Well, excuse me if I don't sort of remember accurately until people remind me where,
That's
but it's just
fine.
there's
It was
lots of
a big
names and
conference,
yeah,
800 people.
yeah, and lots of others since then, and lots of Amandas, I must say. It's a popular name.
So
Yeah.
I'm just interested in catching up with you and finding out about your work and what you're up to with the skulls.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I think I need to hear from you too because you have one up on me. You heard me at the conference, but I don't know very much about what you're doing at all, Amanda. So you
okay,
start off telling me what you're doing and how it's working.
all right. Well, I am running. I've got a background in psychology. I've been a student at Rams's school. I don't know if you've heard of that school.
No?
It's in the States. So I've
Yeah.
been studying kind of science of consciousness and that kind of stuff for a long time, about
Right?
14 years or so.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of family constellations work.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And do you know family constellations?
Yes, absolutely, I do. Yes,
Yeah,
I haven't been on any of them, but I know there's a lady in Cape Town whose name just at the moment escapes me.
Tanya,
Tanya
Tanya
Myberg.
Myberg.
That's right. Tanya, yes,
Yes.
yes.
So
And
a lot of the
she's
work
done lovely work. I know.
she's doing beautiful work. Yeah, very good. And a lot of the work that I've been doing in constellations is kind of, you know, it's like I'm applying it to the star seed work. So the
Yeah,
gateway work and, you know, our ancient families and, you know, helping people
that's
to,
very interesting, Amanda. Very interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
just, so I'm sort of holding the gateways open with the rest. I know you're doing that as well. There are a lot of people that are
Yes.
doing that.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, that's kind of where I'm interested in working. You know, I
Yeah.
want to help people connect to, you know, future doorways and past doorways and, you know,
Mm. You
opening
know
up
what's
soul
interesting?
memory.
Yeah, what's really interesting is to hear that you're a psychologist and doing this work because I think we do have link connections of connecting the sort of traditional background stuff with what's
Yes.
coming out now. And there's quite a lot of interesting work from psychologists that I'm sort of starting to hear about now. Um,
Yeah, so it's quite interesting to apply. Like I studied drama therapy
oh
in
yes.
California, a
Mm.
master's degree in drama therapy, and then I did family constellations for about 4 years, and then I did the Ramtha work. I've been doing that for 14 years, and
Okay.
and so I've kind of put it all together,
Mm-hmm.
and so I actually do my own application of constellations, completely, you know, guided by my soul's journey, essentially.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, what I'm
Good.
understanding about family constellation is that it's a tapping into, you know, the morphogenic field of consciousness. So you can
Yes.
actually do anything with it. You can
Mm.
take a person to their past life. You can take a person to between their life. You can get out their review of their life. You can take them to a potential future timeline. You can, you know, travel to I mean, we've done some amazing um, investigations into the Garden of Eden type scenario. You know, what happened, what were our origins, which links.
Really?
Yeah,
Very interesting,
it's
eh?
very nice.
Fascinating. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think I need to be in Johannesburg to see more of this.
Well, maybe I need to come to Knysna and do something with you.
Absolutely. This is very interesting work. There is, yeah, you talk about that. There's an interesting grouping that's been set up in NICE. Not, I didn't set it up, but someone called, oh gosh, now I should be able to remember her name off pat, but I can't. Doesn't matter. She's doing something at the boat shed. It'll come to me in a second. and she Michelle, she's setting up Monday evenings. They have get-togethers of and all sorts of interesting perspectives on this sort of thing. For those, she says, for those with inquisitive mind and soul, in association with human development, consciousness development.
Okay.
And it's really very interesting word. And I'm sorry, I really should be able to remember her name, but that's okay. I can't for
Is
the
that
moment.
is that
But it's happening on Monday evenings. So anyway, either way, I come up there sometime. Well, when I'm up there, I'll certainly contact you.
yeah,
And
that would be lovely.
yeah, we'll. I'd really like to see what you're doing or be there. And tell me about your conference that's coming up.
It's called Soul Science, and it's
Yes.
on the 22nd to the 24th of November in
Yes.
Mpumalanga in Waterfallboven,
Oh, love.
um,
Yeah.
which is just near the Adams Calendar site that Michael
Sure.
speaks about, Michael
Mm-hmm.
Tellinger. And I've decided to make it an investigation into the goddess, Mami Ninhursag, who was part of the Anunnaki. In fact, she was the geneticist.
Mm-hmm.
If you do you know much about that sort of whole missing
I
link
don't really. I mean,
scenario?
just sort of very briefly hearsay what I picked up. I haven't studied it or anything.
Yeah,
No.
so just I mean briefly, the idea is that the Anunnaki were part of the missing link in terms of the development of the Homo sapien body. So
Yes, yes,
science always speaks about the missing link and how was there suddenly this jump in evolution.
yes.
And so, the Sumerian tablets and all that sort of thing speak about the
I've heard that. This is
interconnection.
Michael Tellinger talks a lot about this, him.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Mm.
And if you look into sort of Zacharias Sitchin's work, and
Mm.
you find out a lot about the Garden of Eden and stuff like that. And apparently, it turns out that you know um, South Africa was part of the Garden of Eden,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
and that
Not surprising.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we have the cradle of humankind, and it's the motherland and all these kinds of myths.
Discovery of all the ancient bones, etc. Yeah.
Right. Um, and so the one site is Adam's calendar, which is apparently, linked to the Sumerian House of Souls, essentially, the time when they came down and they were kind of working genetically with the human race.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just interested in what happened with the goddess, like what's happening with the goddess energies,
Mm.
because you know I think that the next phase that we're going into is a lot about Gaia, the new earth, women kind
Yes.
of coming into their own divinity and unpacking this whole patriarchal era. And
Mm.
how can, I mean, I think largely women have suffered from religion and, all that sort of thing really badly.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So
Mm.
I sort of think that there's quite a lot of work to be done. Um,
Activating the feminine.
yeah, activating the feminine and helping women to come into their leadership, essentially. What do they
Mm.
have to, what do they know that, hasn't been said, and can
Mm.
just kind of almost like the waters of life, the feminine.
So at your conference, is this the general theme of what?
Yes, yeah, I'm going to explore, I'm
It's
going to
going to be you there, and who else is participating?
It'll be myself, and there'll be a couple of other local speakers in South Africa, but mainly the international speakers will be Skyping in. So I won't
Okay.
have people on the ground. I'll have Lynn Buchanan,
Mm-hmm.
who's a remote viewer, Skyping in, and William Brown is the keynote speaker. He's a
Yes. Great. Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful guy. He got a standing ovation at the conference
Yeah.
in
Wonderful.
November. Do you remember his talk
I'm
in
I'm not sure
2011?
which one he did. There were so many. Which one was his? Remind me again.
He spoke about basically the quantum nature of the DNA and how
Yes, 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 yes. That's
it
right. Yes, I do remember.
morphs according to
Yeah,
our consciousness in
yeah,
every
yeah,
moment.
yeah.
So
No.
his concept of soul, which he calls the science of universal life, is
Mm,
really, I mean, you know, the union of the masculine and the feminine working
mm,
together to bring about what he calls the soul child, so the birth of the third new thing.
mm, mm, mm.
And so that whole alchemical work with the masculine and the feminine and the conjunction, within ourselves and
Yes, yes.
outside of ourselves is really what I'm doing with this work.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Sounds really fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, and linking, just to, um, I mean, I've got, just in my own personal journey, it's like I keep putting everybody else ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else, knows better than me. And so I've got a sort of representing, people that have wisdom that want to come forward, but just are too scared to. So I want to try and help just through
Yeah, yeah.
doing my own journey, just step
Sure.
forward
Are
and
you
implement.
working with individual people, or are you working with the idea and groups and workshop formats
In my practice, I work
in your practice?
individually and with groups.
Mm, no, that's
Yeah.
really interesting.
So
Look, I think this whole thing is. Sorry, go on.
yes, no, I run groups and workshops and that kind of thing, and
Yeah,
individual work.
yeah, yeah. Look, I am certainly well behind you. You know that in terms of my own journey, well, you've probably heard a lot of this, so stop me when you've heard it before. But you know that I'm working with the two skulls,
Yes.
and this was an astonishment to me. That I mean, first of all, to have a skull at all, to be led to a skull at all, was a huge um, unknown for me. Just stepping into the unknown, and then to find that there were two to work with, which I still work with, the masculine and the feminine, at the same time,
Right.
activating both, and their qualities are both activated together, which
Mm.
is the masculine and feminine in balance, as far as I understand. Yet there is a difference between the feminine, Luzor, and Izorok, and sometimes they speak to me separately. But when I work, I connect into both of them at the same time, as you know, using the disc. And quite apart from the energetics, which we can discuss if we want to later on, the third skull also came through at that time for the Mayan people. And I heard from Frank Liu in China that I was to be the courier of that skull. Now, that skull, the third skull, which is now with Hunbat's men, the Mayan elder of the Itza tribe, has always said to me, I mean, I think I've commented on it many times and said it in my presentations, it always felt to me like the child's skull. For
Nice.
some curious
Yes.
reason that I can't say why I say that, but it just felt as if it was. Now, that child's skull, I've since connected again with Hunbots overseas at various times. The last one in Connecticut, particularly when I was working with him at one of the ancient serpent mounds. And he showed me this third skull, which he's now been working with for a couple of years. And it has developed the most extraordinary light in the third eye.
Wow.
So I have this beautiful photograph of, he was so happy to show me holding it up to the light. And there is this extraordinary, beautiful light in the third eye. So it does feel as if this is now exactly what you're talking about, a new energy, and appropriately coming through for the Mayan people whose background and whose culture has this idea of the crystal skulls and their gift of bringing in all the good things to humanity and so forth. So yeah, the child being the product of the energies of the masculine and the feminine. Of course, we know it in everyday life, but now we're talking in spiritual terms that there's something more that comes through. And it feels as if, in a curious way, when I speak at gatherings and groups and things, that maybe speaking with the two skulls, the masculine and the feminine energy, something different is birthed in people who connect with us. So that is also a third child of something birthed,
Mm.
something awakened. Certainly, the instruction to me in the writing has been to open awareness. So the opening of awareness, I think, opens the way for the birth of this additional energy, the
Right.
third energy. And of course, that is completely individual for each person, whatever that means. But it's as if something is lighted and, lit, whatever you want to say. So I hear exactly what you're saying. And what am I doing now? I'm still doing much the same as I was told to do at the beginning, actually. Um, when I collected the skulls, as you know, the information was that I was to open awareness and was also specifically to know that the skulls had come were released to work with the energy of the 31-degree meridian. And you will know that that goes through all the areas we're specifically talking about, starting from Durban in the south, where the coelacanth was discovered. And this is an ancient line of energy and development, going up through Timbavati, White Lions, past Timbavati, up the Rift Valley, all the way up to Egypt, and Great Zimbabwe ruins, up to the pyramids and the Sphinx, directly linked with that, with the Sphinx, and up beyond that into Turkey, what is now Turkey, was there Mesopotamia, and beyond that into St. Petersburg. And there is also an astrological connection with Hawaii.
Oh, that's amazing, because that's where William Brown is from.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was just thinking that maybe I'd met him there because I was at a conference there with some of the shamanic astrologers a while back. And in fact, just coming up now, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, probably not. This is a very sort of energized time because I am going to be, apart from doing 2 teachings in Port Elizabeth and Durban on clinical hypnosis, which has many connections with different levels of energy, obviously. And then I'm going to be joining these 2 shamanic astrologers, Daniel Kamara and Maurice, and we're going up with a group from overseas. I don't know how many are in this group, but we're going to have a few days in Timbavati with the White Lions and Linda Tucker. Then going beyond that into Kruger National Park up to Mapungubwe, where the golden rhino was discovered. And beyond that to the Zimbabwe ruins. Now, I haven't had the skulls at Mapungubwe or the Zimbabwe ruins yet, but it feels as if those are ancient energies, and obviously their function is to open up ancient energy lines and to reactivate what's happening there. And then we're going down to Cape Town again to pick up the line which connects from Cape Town across to Knysna, where I now am, via Plettenberg Bay and some of the sand sacred sites. So it's as if just right now at this time, which is the reason I can't come to your conference, is that I shall be on this reactivation journey with the crystal skulls going along the 31-degree meridian. So I'm just amazed at how energy is opening up now. There's definitely been a spurt since 2012, which was amazing times, and I was in America for that and had some extraordinary experiences with Star Knowledge Conference and various things over there. Not to mention my time at the Boulder House in the desert with the skulls on 21/12/12. It really was absolutely astonishing how the sun came in, and I was holding the 2 skulls and the disc and my feather, the condor feather, which I work with, and the whole of the condor feather lit up in gold. Wow. It was absolutely one of the most moving, extraordinary things that I have ever experienced. There have been some strange ones, and this one very beautiful and extraordinary. So that was a big opening then into the new phase, the new age. So I think that's where we're at now.
Right. So what's happening in your opinion, with the balancing of the masculine and feminine and the working together and the...
Well, I've, on the journeys, while I've been journeying with them, en route, amazing things happen, which stun me. I mean, just a few. There have been so many, but I'll just recall a few, especially when we were in Turkey, Mesopotamia at the beginning. We were at this very ancient site, Catalhoyuk, which is one of the most ancient of sites of human civilization. I think it's the oldest city that has been discovered. And masses of archaeologists go there. And we were there as a group, and the archaeologists had all gone, so we had the place to ourselves. And there was one little section. We were a group of 6 women, And I had the skulls, of course, with me, and we went into this, the guards are with you all the time. We went into this little area which was under a tarpaulin, had been zipped up because they were doing excavation work. And there was this extraordinary deep pit that had been excavated, and immediately it felt like I couldn't believe it. I was drawn down there with Luzol, and
Wow.
out on my knees, and the energy was intense. I was sucked down. I was actually scared. It was one of the few times I've done a lot of trance work, but this was one of those times where I thought, oh, I was told go deeper, and I went really deep down. And when I got down as deep as what I was supposed to go, it was the most beautiful, peaceful, extraordinary energy. So much so I didn't want to come up. Then I battled.
Wow.
So anyway, coming up to the top, and I found out later that that was very interesting. It was connected. Maybe I won't go into this detail now, but it was an ancient site which is described in one of the books that I'd read, which I hadn't read at the time, but it was about this particular person goes, and I'm just trying to remember her name. It'll come to me just now, but she has an experience of a past life where she comes down to earth to teach these people about sun energy because they'd only just done moon energy at that stage, and that she had this vision of this great crystal down in the bottom of the earth, and that it was now going to be it had been transferred, it was in the Black Sea somewhere, but it was an ancient sacred site. Anyway, coming out of this place, I was so overwhelmed that I actually couldn't speak at all. And I rejoined my colleagues outside, and we went across to the main dig. And the main dig had a little square that was cordoned off with a rope around it, or actually, yeah, it was a rope around it. And in the center there was a kind of pinnacle format, and on top there was a little stone. Clearly some kind of a penis energy, it looked like, with a little stone on the top. And we women were standing on the outside of this little block. And I had this extraordinary need to get over the rope and remove this little stone from the top. And the women were all sort of singing, chanting. And as I did this, I glanced around, and there were the guards coming up the hill, obviously not supposed to touch. And we thought we were going to be prosecuted or whatever. And horrified, we just stood there, and they formed a ring around the women, and they simply formed this ring of protection.
Wow.
Something extraordinary.
Wow, that
and
is
so
extraordinary.
moving. And I was told in the writing afterwards that had to be removed to remove the high aggression of the masculine, which is what is the problem at the moment, to release the true power of the masculine, which
Oh,
is
wow. That gives me
and
such
and
goosebumps. That's so
it,
beautiful.
it was extraordinary.
Oh,
And in the same, in Bhutan, and just another thing that comes to mind. Um,
so can I just ask you, in that site, that underground kind of place, do you think that is a kind of, do you think it was a Middle Earth portal type scenario? Do you think, I mean,
I didn't do any analysis like that. I just knew that it was crystal connecting with deep crystal, and that I was being connected in some way. So a lot of what I do, I find there isn't an actual explanation, except that later I found Barbara Hand Clow is the name of the author that I was trying to remember. And she writes this collection of stories of her past life experiences as goddess energy, which
okay.
is why I was interested in what you said. And she was the one who talked about this vision, and it's in her book, which I hadn't. Someone said to me afterwards, "Have you ever read that book?" I said, "No," and they gave it to me, and I couldn't believe it because somehow I'd connected into something. Which, whatever you like to say about it, it was an extraordinary experience. And afterwards, we had this amazing incident of the masculine. Another time, there are a couple of them, but I just mentioned once in Bhutan, in some of the sacred monasteries where I was with the skulls. And on two occasions, we had members of the army coming in and laying down their arms inside the temple.
Wow.
You know, the guns, literally inside the temple at the altar, you know, the rails inside there. It was extraordinary. And there've been a couple of them, and they're like incidents that happen just unbelievably while the work is happening. So I think it opens up. I think what the work with the skull is to open up energy which has become dormant or sluggish or not functional. So perhaps it just reopens to a place of balance, where there's a natural balance, where the aggression aspect is somehow nullified.
Did you take the skulls onto Adam's calendar during the
Yes, I
conference?
did. Yes,
And what
yes.
happened there? Do you
Um,
remember?
well, it was pouring with rain, as often happens at Adam's calendar. So we
Okay.
stand in the rain. I felt a strong connection, and especially in one of those stones there, I didn't find anything too extraordinary happen, but I recognize it as a sacred place.
Mm.
Um, and there wasn't any of the more obvious, fairly dramatic things that happen. Um,
Because I'd
I
be quite interested if you want to at some point just to travel around that land a little bit and see what
Yes.
else is there, because I'm quite interested in finding there's another site that I feel like I'm almost having to, like I have to go and find another site. I don't know if it's
Mm.
a cave site, I don't know if but it's something else other than what's known.
Yeah, yeah. Look,
And
I
so
think we're on.
it could be quite fun, and it would be linked to the balance of the masculine and the feminine, bringing in the third, the child. So I'd love to align to the three because I
Well,
feel
we must
very,
see what we can make happen. Um,
I feel
yeah.
drawn to the children that are wanting to come in,
Mm,
the
mm.
star
There-
children.
This is very interesting how the children are drawn to the skulls too.
Yeah.
I've had some interesting experiences of the children there, particularly when I first brought them back from Himalayas at the very beginning, and I felt I needed to wash them in the waters of South African waters. And the women in my family actually came down with me first of all to the rock pools, and we washed the two skulls. But this little boy, who is my niece's son, wanted to come as well. He has been particularly drawn to Luzor. It's been very extraordinary. And anyway, he took proprietary interest in being the only one who was allowed to bathe Luzor. It was a very fascinating connection. So I think the children automatically are interested in the skulls. Um, so what can we say about that? It's just the child energy is available.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I sort of feel I'm kind of providing a gateway for the children that want to come in, and some of the women that are
Mm.
gathering are wanting to be pregnant,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
some of the more advanced children, the children that really want to be a part of the future, high frequency beings.
Yeah, yeah. There are
Um,
extraordinary number of very beautiful children around at the moment. I can't believe it. I keep meeting them everywhere. Very fascinating, beautiful children. So yes, there is a new energy coming in. But I think, yeah, there's so much that's mystery about this, Amanda, that you cannot really, I don't think, state in our terms exactly what is happening. There's a lot that's mystery.
mm,
Um, So I don't know if you feel the same as that, but I think the facts of what happens are what is interesting.
mm,
And of course, there are many other skulls, people working with many other skulls, but the function of the skulls is to open up the energy, and particularly with these two, to connect, to create awareness with star people. So
mm.
in the writing, you might remember, I don't know if I talked about this, I must have at that conference, but when I work with the skulls and the disc, I have a pad nearby, and automatic writing starts, which is a connection with Orion. So this connection with Orion is very fascinating. And at times it gets much stronger than the others. And curiously, before I heard from you, I just one day by chance just opened a folder where I'd written the original writings with the skulls. You know, it happens in very strange. writing to start with. Afterwards, I have to sort of write it out in my own handwriting, or else I forget what it's about. And then at the beginning, I started putting it onto my computer to keep it for record because I was told that. Well, I've stopped doing that now. It's just far too much. Just can't keep it going. But I look back into this, and there's quite a lot that is written there in the writings, which maybe I have to have another look at and do something different with now. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I'd be happy. I mean, if there's anything I can do to help you, whether it's
Well, thank you. I mean, that's apart from what we're saying now. It's just that it seems as if there's another prod, about working with us.
yeah,
And
I mean, who knows what it is, but I'm happy to help. We can just
thank you.
spontaneously kind of do something, and I'm sure we'll be guided, you
I
know.
think I think I'm just trying to work out whether or not this needs to be kept as just my communication and leave it at that, which is quite fine, or whether I have to do something else with them. But it also seems to be indicative of a new wave of something, which I think is so curious because now I'm going on this journey, which is the whole connection of that 31-degree meridian, activating it again. Not
Mm.
just me, of course, everybody there and all of their contributions, which are now going to be different from an astrological point of view, which I find fascinating because I don't know anything about that.
Wow, that's
I don't say I don't know anything about it, but I know very little. I'm certainly no expert in it. And we're going to have these two shamanic astrologers who know all of those connections.
So
So,
are you going to be back in Durban? Because I've been actually doing some work with a homeopath in Durban who's also been very involved in trying to activate the energy in Durban.
yes.
And he's a
Who is this?
his name is Navon.
I think I've met him in Durban. Well, I mean, obviously, I've only just come to Knysna, as you know. I've
Yes.
been in Durban for 30 years, which is
Okay.
where the whole thing started.
Well, he's wonderful, and he did a family constellations training with me, and
Yeah,
he's a brilliant homeopath. Um, and one of his thesis actually was on the frequency of pink. And the
yeah,
frequency of pink, he in his trial, he found that it tapped into the shadow energies of the goddess, which was all the Lilith kind of suppressed, angry goddess energies.
okay.
And within kind of, I mean, I don't know very much about his thesis, but within cultural kind of settings, this activation of this goddess energy was just super intense to sort of help uh, peel off the grid of the suppressed energies of women, you
Really?
know.
Mm.
And you can imagine women with their sexuality unleashed, it's like in a cultural
Dionysus
setting,
again.
it's like, wow, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
So, so he's been doing work, and I've been supporting there a bit, and it's interesting to hear that that's the beginning of that Noetic line
Yes.
going up. Do you
Hmm.
see it as a kind of like a base chakra thing of the earth, or what do you see that
I see it
as?
as a ley line.
Okay.
And
What's the
here
meaning?
again, there's a whole lot more to be investigated there, but I do think and that I'm going to find out more about, I'm sure. Um, there's someone called Guido Cornelison who's also doing energetics, and the sort of energy lines. I feel there's so much more to find out as interest. At the moment, I suppose up to now, I've just been getting on with my work. My work is to take the skulls where they need to be, to where people are interested, to talk about the skulls, to show them the journeys with skulls, which is the record of all those journeys that I've done and what happens, because there's masses more things that we haven't talked about, of very interesting things that do happen that I'm told about in the writing sometimes first, and then it happens. Like in one of the caves in the Black Sea, I'd been told in the writing in the morning, the eye appears. I had no idea what that was about. And in these dark undersea caves that we went to, I mean, they're not totally undersea, but the water's down there, go right down underneath. And on the back wall, first of all, there were huge eyes which connected straight with Luzal, and then this enormous eye, literally like the eye of Horus, just appeared. I have photographs of it. It's just extraordinary.
Wow.
How somehow there is an energetic connection, which I don't understand, but I know it's crystal connecting with crystal molecules in me or whatever is available, which makes it possible to connect.
So it's like a
And
dimensional doorway in a way.
oh yes, I mean there is and there's a lot written in the writing about the pineal, and the pineal being itself a doorway connection, which is actually in our physiological being, if that is open. Yeah, and there's so much about the brain, which of course I have studied and worked about as you have in a lot of detail. But I met a very interesting neurosurgeon who was giving a talk, and his comment was that he thinks that there's something not well known about in the human brain, which the temporal lobe, he called it an aberration of the temporal lobe. Not that that's a pathological or a negative thing, but a development of the temporal lobe, which far from bringing about the epilepsy and so forth, which are the pathological aspects, enable people to be psychic, to see beyond, to be in connection beyond, and so forth. And of course, in our own culture, the sangomas are called to be sangomas through fits, epileptic fits. So there's a whole lot in our own brains, capacities that maybe are being reactivated to enable connections beyond what we normally do in our everyday lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know from my work at the school and with Ramsa is that the brain needs to be initiated into,
Mm.
the brain actually has to be really rewired deeply.
I was told in the writing about all sorts of things that were happening with the pineal, et cetera, which in itself is quite fascinating to go back and look at it now. And it definitely feels that, you show willing, you have some past life connection experience, which has made it possible for you to do this work. And I think I made a contract to come back and do this work after Atlantis, where I also worked with a crystal. So therefore, there is some kind of memory information or availability for this to be reactivated and for us to work beyond, I mean, apart from the everyday work, which all of us do, bread and butter work, in psychological practice. This is simply opening up ourselves, I think. Not just opening up sacred places, but so
Yes,
it's
no,
working with the land.
absolutely.
Sorry, it's working with
Absolutely,
the
I'm
land.
agreeing with you.
It's working up the land and working with the capacities of humans as well to reopen what we have as inherent in our DNA that can be used. So I don't go with too much of the conspiracy theory stuff. I just don't. I find it negative and I don't find it's necessary. But I do find that there are some interesting things in our past life, even coming up on the channels on internet and so forth, about possibilities of inheritance that we have coming from other times of different civilizations of which we have memory trace. And so,
I
so
definitely had a life in Orion many, many
yeah,
long years
yeah. Well,
ago.
hello, fellow traveler. There's some very interesting connections there. And
So
yeah, but
do the skulls link into, I mean, there you say that you mentioned Orion. Is it specifically beings? What's the link to Orion again in the
well,
skulls?
here again, it simply happened that these voices started coming through, that these energies started coming, and the writing started. And obviously, I was actually terrified at first. I asked the usual questions: Where are you from? What is your purpose? Are you light energy and all those? And then they started giving me information that they came from Orion. and names. And I said, well, did I come from Orion? No, but I came through Orion. And
Where did you come from?
I'm just trying to remember. Because you asked me, it's gone out of my head. I know it very well indeed. And I'll tell you just now when it comes back.
It was
But
so
I
long
came through, but
ago.
they came from Orion, and then we all came to Earth to work in, originally together in Atlantis. Oh, why can't I remember this planet? It's an extraordinary planet. A lot of goddess energy there. It'll
Oh,
come to me just now.
wonderful. So now, can we have link into the skulls on the 22nd of November? Can we do a kind of a link in at all for
I'll be
people?
in the bush somewhere. I won't be able to link in with you at all in November. On the
Not
22nd
even
of November.
energetically, not even with an intention
Oh,
to.
yes, absolutely. Energetically, one can always link in if one chooses to link in, one links in.
Yeah, I'd love that.
So
I'd
if
love
you
to make a link between my work, the soul work, and the child's skull, because and
hmm.
see if we can create some kind of interesting
Well, the
triangle.
child skull, I have no authority to work
Mm.
with. It's Hanbart's men's skull, and he is responsible for all the work done there.
And what?
However, I mean, he's come through. We couriered this skull, and I think he's connected to these two. I've never said to Hanbarts, I think he's the child. He might be offended, but to me that seems like. But he does call them the family, the three skulls, the family. He refers to them as the family. So maybe he in himself, he's yeah, he's quite a private person, and yeah.
What does he
So
do? Can you say anything about who he is?
Van Bart's men, yes, he is part of the Mayan Council and the Itza tribe, and the Mayans call themselves the keepers of days. They're the ones who have this belief that there are 13 crystal skulls, and that the middle one is a rose quartz skull. And the idea is that all of these skulls form part of huge knowledge that has been lost to mankind. When they're all gathered together, it is said, in the same place at the same time, that will be the beginning, in the Mayan words, of the whirling rainbow nation of peace. And a great deal will be revealed. Now, this is, what shall I say? You can call it a myth, you can call it a cultural belief, you can call it whatever you like to call it. That's what they believe. There are certainly many more skulls than just 13, and many of them are out now, and some are new, and some are old, and some are ancient. But Hanbart's men is revered as a high elder of the tribe who was brought up in the medicines of the Mayan culture. And he is a shaman amongst many others. I'm not sure if he's calls himself. I don't think many people call themselves shaman if they really are, but he works energetically with the skulls, and his great occupation is to sort of activate the Mayan culture, reactivate the Mayan culture. So he works with them, doing the ancient ceremonies, and when I was last with him, he does these workshops as well, teaching people about the Mayan culture, and certainly observing the ceremonial days and doing ceremony with the skulls. And he's built himself an ancient Mayan pyramid in a place called Lol Bay, where he is now. It's an old Mayan site. He's now got a center there.
Okay.
So yeah, he's overseas, not far from Cancun, in that area. In a lot of the temple sites where I've worked and where I've been and done a lot of my travels and journeys and been initiated there and all the rest of it.
So
So
if
yes,
the
we're
if the
working there.
three skulls come together at any point soon, will you let me know? Because I'd like to be there.
Well, it's all, I must tell you honestly, I will travel wherever I'm called to go, but it's a question of finance. I'm
Yes,
now
I know.
retired,
Me too.
semi-retired. I just have 2 days of therapy open for my practice, which means that the cash that I used to put in, which was my own cash that I'd earned, just isn't available in the same way anymore. So unless someone sponsors me, that's it. I can't go. But having said that, when I'm meant to go somewhere, the cash appears from somewhere, like going on this journey. I certainly couldn't afford it. Suddenly I was invited to do 2 teaching sessions lecturing about clinical hypnotherapies to cover the cost.
That's
So
amazing.
it
I know.
happens when we're supposed to go, but unless it happens or unless someone sponsors me, I can't. I literally have to just trust that I'm supposed to be there. I'll be there. But I
That's
mean,
exactly the
it
same
seems
for
that the
me.
Americans seem to have so much in the way of sponsorship, and it would be great if there was kind of sponsorship which enabled one to travel more and to go to these places and to present at places. So I was over there in 2012. That again came available, but it's not just such an easy thing for me to say. But I do believe that when I'm supposed to be there, something happens.
I know money has been such a huge theme coming up recently because
It is.
it's like I have no money because I've
Mm,
had to let go of everything in order
mm,
to do this work and talk about ET contact and star nations and this and that, and it's like everything falls away so that this
sure.
new thing can be born. And then it's
Mm,
like, well, where's the money going to come from? And to
yeah.
trust, as you say. But it would be interesting to do some energetic work around this new money system. And do you have any ideas about what that is? Do you think it's just a
No, I don't actually, quite honestly, I haven't bothered with that because as far as I'm concerned, all my life I've known I'll always have enough.
right?
That enough is a question of trust. And
Yeah,
if you're
just
supposed to
trust.
do it, it will come from somewhere. So I haven't really gone into all of that. It doesn't really interest me. I feel I have to keep my nose to the ground of what I'm supposed to do and just keep opening up
Right.
and being available. I mean, I'm available and I'm just available, put it that way. And then I will be used as I'm supposed to be used. And if it's supposed to be a phase of being present here, because I have been now, you know, in the areas around about Knysna, which is a new area for me, where we're living now.
How's it
And
been
getting
going there with the skulls and the work? What's been happening there for you?
we did a spring equinox ceremony very recently down at Plettenberg Bay, which was lovely on the rocks down there. So it's a question of just being available. And I've done presentations there. I've been in Barrydale recently, um, things like that. Not to mention Durban. And the first ceremony we ever did here was in the forests of Knysna, which felt to me there had to be work done there because of all the terrible greed that's decimated not only the trees but the elephant population. So a lot of it's working with earth and with the
Yeah.
animals and opening up, which is why I was taken on this huge learning journey and training in the Native American ways of connection with the earth. Because I don't think you can have any connection with other dimensions unless you're connected to the earth. Your
That's
feet have
right.
to be firmly on the ground in the earth with no nonsense stuff, firmly planted, because I definitely don't. My first teacher, Michael Owen, my great teacher, Michael Owen, always talked about space cadets who are absolutely no use at all. They're just floating around there somewhere in the ether. Unless your feet are on the ground and you're doing something through the earth and connecting beyond, you're no use. So I always keep that firmly in mind. It's
So
not just about.
that's what you've been doing there in Knysna, because I remember you talking about moving to Knysna and that was the next call.
That was, and it's the water. I'm
Okay.
working with the water, uh, but not only the water, the earth, the water, grandmother earth, basically,
Mm.
but opening up awareness wherever it is. So it's extraordinary, and there's been a lot of internet connections as well. The Bob Charles show, I was presenting on the Bob Charles show. There's also um, been conferences on the net, actually, with the skull people. Um, and that's been very fascinating for me to sit here in South Africa and listen to the conferences as if I was sitting there somewhere overseas. And I find that's been a huge opener-upper and helps a lot with the financial situation. And I have all my dear connections overseas who I've met on all of these journeys.
And
That
when you do you see individual people? Do you see people for individual work still?
I do. I see people I keep quite separately. Well, I mean, is everything quite separately? No, it's not. But I still do specific psychotherapeutic work, working with clinical hypnosis. But I find that the people who find me are interested, um, in a bit more than just problems around their personal life. They're interested in a bigger life picture than that. But
So have you had
I don't use the skulls. I keep that separate. I don't bring the skulls in when I'm doing psychotherapy because people then have to be working with what's going on inside them and not being feeling themselves so transported away that they're not focusing on what the real issues are.
so you don't link your skulls at all to your sessions?
Unless someone asks for it especially, but I'm open to do whatever I need to do. I do body alignment therapy, which also brings in other dimensions. So I am talking about other dimensions as well. And if in a session a past life comes up, it comes up. But I don't go doing titillation of people's interest and wanting to know if they were Joan of Arc in a past life, I think it's just sort of it's disrespectful. So, but I will do whatever as I say, I'm open and
To
ready to do
whatever.
whatever needs to be done. But I do definitely see people who are wanting to talk more about a spiritual development. Sometimes people come for that, as part of their therapeutic work through depression, etc., etc. So, yeah, I I see out that these are just two faces of the same person, but sometimes people need to come from where they're at. Put it that way. They need to have a. This is not an escape story to work with the skulls. It's like an
Right,
enrichment of the
right.
whole. That's the way I see it. So I'm just open for whatever comes up. We have a very excellent group here of psychologists and social workers. We meet together for our CPD points,
Oh, how wonderful.
and it's very, very rich because it's all sorts of disciplines.
How wonderful.
Even
Do you know Mordechai's group?
no,
Mordechai is in Neisner. Just trying to
she a
think.
psychologist?
No, it's a guy.
Oh,
He does. I'm just trying to think of the name. Tamboo. Tamboo.
oh, you're talking about Guido Cornelissen.
Mordechai and Siobhan.
Are you talking about Guido Cornelissen? Are you using his medicine name?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I don't really
Anyway,
know.
this is actually people who are, the medical and dental council people in this
Okay,
group.
so there's a group, there's an institute in Neisner called Tamboo,
Oh,
and they do maybe, I mean, it might be interesting just going and meeting them, or just even looking
yeah.
at the website and linking into what they do, because they do a lot of work. Mordechai's work is with alchemy, and he does a lot of the male female conjunction, energetic
Oh, I
stuff.
haven't met
So
him so far. Is
anyway,
this website called TAMBU?
BOO.
Oh, TAMBO. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. There's lots of things happening in Neisner that it's a very rich area.
And the other thing that was interesting is the other link is there's a woman called Heather Gregg who does the land art in Plettenberg Bay.
I'm going to write this down because I don't know her yet. We've only been here 18 months and it feels if not nearly long enough. Heather
So
Gregg, did you
Heather
say?
Gregg, yeah, I can send you all the links and details
Yes,
just to kind of
please do.
network a little bit, because maybe
Yes.
the energy of what you need to do needs to travel. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And those networks can just travel
mm.
into each other. But she's doing very good work with the land. Um,
Okay.
and I think she has a festival once a year, like in July or something, but it's starting to travel. The actual energy of the festival of making art on the land and the
Mm.
kind of caretaking and the loving nature of what the earth gets and receives by people
Well,
putting their
that's
love.
taps in very directly to what I'm doing. Yeah.
And I mean, it's so, I was thinking of, saying to her, well, why don't we move it into the water? Why don't we move the land art into water art somehow, just to put the attention of love into into the waters.
Yeah. At the spring equinox ceremony, I'd been when I was in Hawaii, I met a lot of amazing people. Somebody over there sent me this sacred water, which was sacred waters from all around the world, including John o' God and all sorts of amazing places. And at that ceremony, I gifted some of this to our ocean. So each time I go overseas, I bring back the energy, and it's connected into our own waters here. After
That's beautiful.
2012, we did the same thing, grounding that energy into our land and our waters.
I mean, it makes sense to connect with the waters in terms of the feminine as well, because it's such an
Absolutely. Yeah,
amplifier, of
yeah,
consciousness.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll keep that in mind for the soul science, the goddess focused work, is
Mm,
to make
mm,
sure that the energy of, working into the land and into the water
absolutely. Yeah.
is there.
No, I think the land and water are sort of indivisible, really, but it's all grandmother earth. So,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah,
So that as a whole, that's the work. But the animals, four-leggeds and the creepers and the crawlers and the winged ones and all the rest,
yeah.
um, very, very beautiful work there as well. So, yeah.
Do you have a sense of, what is the line that Adam's calendar is actually on? Is it on the 31 degree?
I think it's on the 31 degree. It's certainly, it seems to me, I haven't looked this up or checked it out, but Barberton and Timbavati, all those places, I think they're very little off if they aren't exactly on it. And I don't know enough about ley lines, but I think they're not exactly just one line. I mean, because when I moved from Durban, which is the 31-degree meridian, I couldn't understand why I was coming here, and they said that the band broadens. So I think
Okay.
a ley line, in my understanding, which may not, I mean, others may have more information for me on this, is not just one line, but it is a band, a
Okay.
kind of energetic band.
That makes sense.
That's my understanding of it. So in that case, I would say that Adam's calendar is part of a huge band of energy going upwards.
And what about Credo Mutua and his
Oh,
work
yes.
and the eye up there? Where is that?
That's
Do you
right.
think that's?
I took the skulls to meet Credo, you know that.
No, I didn't know.
So at the beginning, when I was overseas, I never know what I say at these conferences. Anyway, when I brought them back, I was told that I must take them to meet the wise old man. I knew it was Credo immediately, but I couldn't see him for a while. And finally, I did go up there, and we went up with, I think it was with, never mind, a group of us went up there, and at first, and he has this healing center, as you say, and I've got some lovely pictures of his healing circles, and he's got this big eye on the stone. Have you been there to his place?
Yes, yes.
Yes, so you know the place. And I didn't tell him at first that I had the crystal skulls, and then, you know, because I just didn't interrupt what was going on. But then the one day I said to him, I need to show you, I've got these ancient crystal skulls. This old man started to cry. He
Oh,
recognized the skull energy immediately, and he was so moved that they were there. He said he was a man and he could not touch them because he carried arms. But the only way he could connect with them was if I poured some of the sacred water from the eye, that spring in Kuruman, into the eyes of the skulls. And then if I poured that in a glass, he could drink it. That way he
oh,
could connect with the
wow,
skull
wow,
energy. So it was an absolutely amazing interaction with him.
wow.
And then he said to me that he thought that this fulfilled for him a prophecy that he'd had from his mother when he was little. His mother had said to him, "If you drink from the eyes of a living God, you will never die." And this is
Wow.
what he interpreted this as. And he spent a lot of time showing me, telling me about some of the beliefs of one of the tribes where, they also have stones with holes in the middle, which they use for prophecy. These stones are given to the oldest woman because he was interested in the disc in particular.
Okay.
And the stone is given to the oldest woman in the tribe, and she sleeps with it for a year. And at the end of that calendar year, she urinates through the hole, and then she holds it up, and there's prophecy.
Wow.
So Crater, I think I'm getting enough now to cope with. I don't know about prophecy, but anyway, he was fascinated by the skulls, and he certainly connected with them immediately. And he knew about the energy, and he came out. The other thing that was interesting, he didn't sleep very well because he's quite an old man and he's not well.
Mm.
Cancer, and he came out and he said he'd been drawing for us in the night, and he brought out this drawing of a creature that looked like a serpent, and from this, which of course is very much part of the Native American tradition, from the serpent, the humans were birthed out of its mouth, and it came from Orion.
Okay.
So, I mean, and I hadn't told him anything about the Orion connection at that stage, which is fascinating to me, absolutely fascinating.
That's
He is very
amazing.
much, he he was apparently initiated in the Adams calendar area as well.
Yeah, I'd actually love to hear his stories about the area. And
Yeah,
but what's interesting is he's just had I've just heard about this prophecy of his about he feels that he needs to hand his legacy over to 12 women.
oh,
Have you heard that?
no, not yet.
So I don't know. I'd like to actually travel up there and see him at some point and hear more
Mm,
about this
yes,
interesting prophecy because for
yeah,
some
he's really,
reason
yeah.
it links
Well,
into this,
I
this feminine, rising of the feminine and the wisdom through the
yeah,
feminine energy.
yeah, he gave me, well, I don't know if I'll even mention it, but he did give me a medicine name, which was very interesting.
Oh, beautiful. Maybe another time.
Feeds into that, yeah. So, right.
All right.
Anyway, these are all very interesting connections, but yeah, maybe one day I'll go back again and see Crater Mutlu with you. You never know.
Yes, maybe
Someone
that's.
gives someone gives us a great big fat wad of money. We'll do all sorts of things.
Yes, so we'll put out a call for funders to put
Yeah,
some fabulous flow of wealth into our project, and we'll do lots of
yeah.
magic things.
At the moment, it just feels to I don't know that we have the full understanding. I have done some work trying to more serious work, which I actually was published in the South African Journal of Psychology, which was really amazing that they accepted. This is quite a difference from the usual thing that's published in that journal. Trying to understand past life experience and all those sorts of experiences that people do have from a quantum physics perspective. How is it possible? And so I put a few thoughts down on that, and it's been, yeah, it feels as if it's important to think about it um, from a more formal perspective as well, just
Well,
as a
that's
bridge,
where
which
William Brown is so amazing. I mean,
I find this bridging is important work.
it
Yeah,
is important because I think that for me, that's the marriage, the masculine feminine
masculine and feminine.
marriage.
Absolutely. You know that the names that were, well, the qualities that were associated with these two skulls um, by Dr. Frank Liu, from whom I received them in China. And he says that Luzal is wonder and Izorok is clarity. And
Wow.
what better marriage of the masculine and the feminine
Have you
than that?
got them there with you?
Yes.
Can we see them in the camera?
I don't know. Can you see them?
If you hold them up by your head.
Okay. Okay,
Up,
right.
up.
Here we are. Let me hold them here. This is Luzal.
Okay.
There she is. and this is Izorok on this side.
Oh,
And they're
beautiful.
very heavy beings. I can't do the disc as well, but the disc is also. But
Where would the disc go? On your third eye?
when I work with them, I usually actually have them down on my hips, and the disc goes across the belly button.
Oh,
It's the feminine,
wow. That's
yeah,
so amazing.
working on the feminine, yeah. So there they are. They've been sitting here
Belly
listening
button.
in on all of this, and
Wow.
this is the disc. Here's the disc.
Okay.
It spins the energy.
So why is
It
the
spins the
disc on the belly
vortices
button?
because it spins the vortices of energy, and the belly button being a very central, pivotal place in the energy. I put it all sorts of places, but generally because I can't hold more than two things at once. I've also got a third skull. It's actually an extraordinary crystal with galactic energy, very big. It's not actually a skull, but it has a skull face carved into it, which I didn't bring up with me right now, just because it's very heavy to carry them all at once. I should have brought it up perhaps. But this one was the next one gifted to me in Sedona.
So who's that connected to? Whose energy?
It's galactic. I was just told it's galactic energy.
Fantastic.
So maybe it's interesting. How do we know which of this got its has got a real connection? But when I didn't, I just thought I cannot bring back another skull. They are so heavy for me to carry. And this crystal, which maybe I'll fetch just now and bring and show you, but it said to me, "We know each other." And I was actually so in, I just couldn't leave it behind. And I had no money to buy it. The usual.
Wow.
And the carver said, he has to come with you. And one of the shamans said, you must take him. He's galactic energy. He's been
Oh,
waiting
how
for the energy.
exciting.
So I brought him back, and I had no money to pay, and I had to pay by installments from this end. But he's the one that I find most people find it easiest to connect to, because these two connect with me kinesthetically through my cell structure. But the other one you can look into, and it is amazing, absolutely amazing, how the movement in the crystal is shifting and changing all the time. Just
Wow.
extraordinary.
How beautiful.
So I want some of there's a young man here who's expert in crystal. I want him to come in and tell me a little bit more about how it is. Does crystal grow, change, shift, whatever it is that I'm seeing in it with rainbows and everything in this crystal?
Wow.
He's beautiful. So he's part of the energetic community as well. He just isn't part of the original two because he's not, strictly speaking, a skull, but he's got a beautiful face carved in him, which I recognize. Yeah.
How beautiful. Wow, that's amazing. It's so interesting to constellate, the one, like one of the skulls, you know what I mean? And just a constellation is kind of just like tapping in and seeing what a group can pick up. So just
Well,
from
whenever I'm there, they're open. People can key into
whatever
whatever
they,
they do. But as I say, they find it easier to key in with SEPA than to just, I don't know. He's very appealing. He is beautiful. Do you want me to fetch him?
is that his name?
SEPA, SIPA. All these
Beautiful.
names came in the writing. I didn't choose them.
How
I'm just
amazing. Yes, please do. We definitely need our galactic
all right.
part.
Give me a minute, and I'll go down and fetch him
Okay.
because I think he would be offended if he wasn't part of the.
Definitely.
Just a second.
Oh, wow. Totally different, eh?
He is very different.
Oh, he's exquisite. Wowee.
How can you see him?
Whoa, that's
Can't see the whole of him,
amazing.
maybe.
Oh my goodness, that is such an extraordinary.
He is extraordinary.
Oh,
I don't know how.
wow, wow.
Sort of that. This wretched thing that keeps coming across.
It's
Um,
beautiful. If you just hold it up next to you, I
exquisite.
can see it.
Can you see him?
So incredible.
No, that's not good. Maybe
Everything's opposite in the camera. It's
that's his
absolutely.
head, but you cannot really see the beauty um, of the light changing within. Sorry, I can't quite get this right. Further back, that might be better
Yeah,
light.
there. Yes, I can see now.
So, yeah. But he's full of rainbows, and
Wow.
the crystal inside has changed. The patterns of the levels seem to have changed inside, and there's a lot happening up here in the head, coming through from here. So there is gradations and looks like dimensions. You won't be able to see from there. Anyway, that's Seeper. But they are all so heavy. This one, you can hear me panting a bit out of.
Wow, I'm sure.
They
It's
are
exquisite.
extremely heavy. This is a big one and a
Very.
very heavy one.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah. So, anyway, we work with mysterious things. What else
It's
can we
very
say?
beautiful. Yeah, so grateful to
So,
just hear about your work more.
yes, and it's interesting to hear what you're doing there too, Amanda. So, I don't know. We'll see how things pan out. I'm sure that if we're meant to sort of connect in more physical closeness, that it will happen.
Yeah,
But I think you're doing some very interesting work. As I'm really fascinated to. I think this connection um, with Dan Brown and all of these people. This is really good stuff.
William.
William Brown, not Dan.
Yeah,
Wi-
William's absolutely an amazing, beautiful being, honestly. He just
Yes,
has so much love to share that goes along with his information.
yes. Well, there were some very extraordinary speakers at that
Yeah,
conference.
yeah, it was an
Extraordinary.
incredible conference.
Yeah, there are lots.
So it's nice. It almost feels like there's a little bit of a gathering again now that we've passed through the end of 2012, and it's like the
Yes,
2013
yeah. It seems
unit.
the energy's been I find huge, tumultuous, huge, and very strong, and very up and down, quite disturbingly, what should I say, rumbustious energy.
This year.
Yes, this
Yes,
year.
it's been very intense
Yeah,
this year.
yeah.
Very intense.
It's one of those phases.
Yeah.
Anyway, we stay in touch, and if you wouldn't mind sending me some of those links.
Yes, I definitely will. And yeah, just if there's anything that comes to mind that you want me to help you with, just as part of the community, just
Yes,
let me
thank you.
know. And
Thank you.
we'll see if we can be there for each other.
I certainly know. It's nice to know that you're at the other end. And do you know how many Amanda Giffords there are?
How
If you look
many?
at the list, there are, honestly, it's a page of them all over, especially in Britain
I think I
and
need to change
America.
my name.
No, don't. You're a very unique being. But I mean, it's confusing for people to know where you are. We get so used to just reading on the internet that the actual physical locality of someone becomes almost irrelevant.
I know it's true. It's amazing, and I'm
Yeah.
actually quite interested in using this time in November to build up for quite a lot of work next year. I'd like to do. I mean, I'd love to link in with you somehow next year, like just through
Yes,
synchronicity. Kind of
yes.
let the
That'd be lovely.
synchronicity of it unfold. But I'm wanting to put on something of a conference around around contact, actually,
Yes,
galactic contact, and
exactly.
dimensional,
Hmm.
um, helping people to open up their brains and their third eyes, and that kind of thing, just like what you were
Hmm.
saying. So anyway,
Let's see
we'll
what
see where we
happens.
go. Yeah.
Yes, let's see what happens. But it's lovely to chat to you and to
Lovely
see you in the
chatting with you.
flesh. And thank you very much. And It's delightful. Now I know exactly who you are, not just on the email page.
Yes, and
So,
beautiful to speak to you, and we'll
so-
speak again.
yes, lovely. Lovely to speak to you, Amanda. So take
Okay.
care.
Be well,
Righto.
you too.
Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.
Bye.
Bye.